Hey, you guys, welcome to Burgundy Blue Commentary, where we talk about what we want to talk about when we're ready to talk about it. And today we're talking It. Welcome to Derry. And I have two special guests, Gardis Watts and Choose Compassion. Thanks for joining me, guys.
Hey, Burgundy. Hi, Gardis.
Hey,
Good
lady.
evening, everybody.
And thanks for being here, you guys, because I love it from the book on all the way up. And I know that I was watching TikTok. ChOOse got me into TikTok now. So I was listening. People were saying some other like people were saying they didn't know this many black people were into it, and I found that really interesting. And I was like, so I went back to the book and I read a little bit, and I said Stephen King really was using some language, wasn't he? When it came to us. So yeah, I'm glad to have more black people discussing it. Welcome to Derry and the horror of it all,
Mm-hmm.
especially some historical horror at that. Whether it came to us as black people or indigenous people, and gentrification taking over a town, building over it, just all type of stuff. The military, all kind of things like that. So I want to talk about episode 7. So I mean episode 6. I just jumped ahead. So we only got 2 more episodes left in the season. You guys, if you're joining this discussion, it's spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. So if you haven't caught up, um, click on out. So I guess we'll start at the beginning. We open up the film at Juniper Hills, and we have a young Mrs. Kirsch, and she's working at Juniper Hills, and it's a patient there named Mabel. And Mabel is saying, she overhears Mabel say, "Hey, it's a and you guys correct me if I'm wrong. This is how I'm remembering it. She said, "Hey, it's a clown named Pennywise. He's down in the basement." And Mrs. Kirsch overhears that, and she's interested now. I guess I'll start there. Like, she's interested in hearing what little Mabel have to say, and the doctor's like, "You crazy? Take this medicine and go to sleep." So, when I saw that part, I just thought, you know, how did she know they were talking about her dad? So I guess later on we found out his name was Bob Gray went as Pennywise the dancing clown. But my question is, why do you think she was hanging around Juniper Hills, or that was just a job she had, or did she choose that job to get around kids? Because I don't think she realized, what was going to happen to Mabel.
Well, I think the thing was that she. So I don't know if we get into the story of what actually happened to her father,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that trauma there, uh, kind of is kind of like resurfacing because when she hears the little girl talk about the clown, it probably reminds her of her father, and then when she went down and saw it and saw the clown as Pennywise, that actually, prompted her to believe that that's actually her father. And then suddenly there was the whole thing of, you know, Pennywise showed his teeth, and that's when the tragic situation of the girl, tripping in the hallway, and the demon actually eating up the little girl. But then remember, he comes up as, her father, and basically convinces her to, feed him more kids. And I think the problem, the issue is Pennywise doesn't just or what did the Native Americans call it? The Chaloo? Was
The
it called
glue.
the
Uh-huh.
Galoo?
Mm-hmm.
The Galoo um not only plays up off your fears, but it plays up off your trauma too.
Mm.
And so the image of her father causes, is the cause of a lot of her trauma because, like I said, I don't know what happened to her father. Maybe it was something in it too I might have missed or something, or we haven't, they haven't showed it in the series. But um, that image of her father being that traumatic event, and also too, her being a helper and basically feeding, you know, a lot of children to Pennywise, you know, within Juniper Hill. So um trauma based, a lot of murders or murderers um spring out of a traumatic lifestyle or event. And so this is kind of like a more mystical tale of trauma, because I think, Berg, remember I told you that um, I believe Stephen King got the idea of Pennywise from John Wayne Gacy, because we were talking about the most notorious serial killer in American history, who was actually a clown, and he was actually killing kids too. So I don't think that's not a coincidence. I think Stephen King kind of saw that as his next character, as a demon like Pennywise. But when you think about the cycle of trauma and what it causes, especially um, untreated trauma, you get rage, you get stuff like killing kids and killing innocent people. And this is an example of that.
No, I definitely agree with that, Gardis. Just with this whole, when I saw this coming, I excuse me, it's really like, for me, it's like trauma, things with surrounding trauma and how that affects people in different ways. That's what drew me right on back to it. But that it's real. What I found really interesting about Mrs. Kirsch and that whole exchange with the child is kind of like it's really exactly what Garda said about, something that she must have seen or heard in the story, and she thought this was her father. But I think about how this was really, really terrible. This is like the worst thing that you can imagine, that comes out of trauma. But when we think about the little things and how I was looking at how she's trying to tell the little girl, don't be scared. And the little girl's like, you don't understand. And just how we react in our trauma. We think that these things may be okay. She really, I feel like Mrs. Kirsch really thought that was her dad. But it's really this, it's something that's reminding her of it. And it's just how we can, I don't know, mislead people. But in this instance, it's just, this is the worst of the worst of the worst. But it was just interesting how to think about what must she have gone through with her dad, and all the whatever memories integrated with the circus and the little clown that we saw on the screen. That I'm thinking that had to be her, and just whatever in her childhood that made her try to make that little girl go down there in that basement, like, it's okay, let's go see the clown. The clown's all right. No, you're not all right, lady. But this whole thing was interesting from a trauma based standpoint.
I agree with you. I wanted to just go back a little bit. When Gardis was asking, did he miss anything about Bob Gray or how the Pennywise? No, except for the only thing they mentioned in the movies were, how he comes every 27 years. In 1908, it was that factory fire at an Easter egg hunt, and 88 children. You know how they always flip through that page. 88 children passed away, and I think that left 14 adults, and some bodies ended up missing. Um, so that's what the little clippings say. I thought Pennywise, uh, found Bob Gray and probably killed him. But I think that what happened was he was in that explosion, because at the beginning of um the beginning of the credits, you see the little Pennywise wagon as well. So I don't know. I guess we'll find out later. But I do think the trauma, going back to that, like, you know how you think you're going to see someone later on in the day, you're at school or whatever, and then they never come home. So maybe that, because I was like, how does she think that's her daddy 27 years later, and he would come back to see her as a clown for him? Like, that don't make sense. Like, you are crazy. But uh that's, she took what she could get, because who wouldn't want to see their loved one last time? But at what sacrifice? She sacrificed a lot, right?
Mhm.
She sacrificed other people loss and grief and everything just to see her dad one more time.
Yeah,
um
and not, and to say that, like, because how does one, like, when you watch it from a standpoint of, watching it, like, why does she not recognize that that is not her dad? But at the same time, just because something looks like your dad, doesn't mean that is your dad. But because of the fact that she's longing to see him, like I said, because of a traumatic event, it, you know, she feeds into it just so she can see that image of him. Whereas, and that's an interesting tie-in you brought, Berg, about Lily's father and how he tragically died. And so when you think about the image that is displayed on her, which is a grotesque image, and she, like, she's Lily suffers through that guilt because she feels like she was the one that had him killed, because she asked him to go back. I think, if I can remember, she asked him to go back to work for something, if I can remember,
but
and
yeah,
she
to
has
pick
that.
up something she had, like from the five and dime.
Yes. So she feels there's a guilt there, and every time she sees her father, and even though the demon plays up off of fear and trauma, the demon always makes Lily's father looks grotesque, and because he, and it's always in the like in the form of a pickle or something, because he died in the pickle factory.
That is just sick. That is just sick. So can I ask you guys a question? Like that whole form of him, just it just gets me every time. You are right, Gardis.
Hmm.
Do you think that Mrs. Kirsch already had lost it a little bit, because, or do you think that she really snapped after she saw Mabel being devoured, or was
I,
something already there?
like any trauma, it's a slow progression. You know how, a slow progression until you lose yourself. And it may seem like, or they may really be a point where you really snap and break from reality. But I think it's just like regular life, where little traumas add up, and they start to change us a little, and before we know it, we're like, wait a minute, or someone else is like, what's wrong with you? You know what I mean? So I would think that's just my take. I think it might have been like, just, how we go through our lives after, just trauma on top of trauma, something else happens, and before we know it, we bringing children down to the basement.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, everybody is capable of anything, and I think ChOOse touched on it, where it basically kind of tipped her over to live that trauma based life. Uh, Even though the initial killing of that child kind of disturbed her, when she saw her father, that disturbance in her soul kind of went away, because like I said, she's longing to see her father. But it's almost like, my father used to tell me that um, when soldiers in the military, their first kill is always the hardest one, because if you've never killed a man, if you killed him once, that one haunts you for a long time. But then once you start killing after that, he said it gets easier. It gets easier. That hump of killing a man is always the hardest. But then after you do it over and over again, it basically gets easier.
so much sense. Like just how we, how we start to see. Well, let me just go back. That makes so much sense, really, just in the overall theme of dairy. It all, just all of this is yeah. It's like you face something, and then it's like, okay, once you're facing this, whatever it is, like in the instance of what Gardis says, you're the first person, that you kill, if you're a soldier, it's got to be the hardest, and it gets easier. So it's like it gets easier to walk in that fear and walk in that trauma, which could possibly lead to a break like that. That was just very interesting. It's like, yeah, once you do something, it does get easier, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. So that was really insightful. Thank you.
I agree. I feel like maybe she didn't go down there with the intentions to harm Mabel or to have Mabel harmed, but then once it was done, it was done. Okay, so we'll come back to Mrs. Kirsch. So we're at this point, we see that Hank is still missing. Hank is Ronnie's dad, and he's still missing, and posters are going all up around Derry, and people are really, really getting fired up. I always go to the color red. Red was all through this part. People didn't care about the missing children anymore. They were fired up because Hank Grogan had escaped. Um, and I'm gonna be real. I don't know if they were more mad because of what happened to the children, or if the racism was pushing the mob more. So they are going around town with shotguns looking for Hank, and we go up into the top to the Losers Club tower, their hideout, and Ronnie is just sitting there looking at the wanted poster of her dad, not knowing what to do. And then she gets into it with Lily, who's showing them the artifact she has and how it glowed and how it saved her. And her and Ronnie get into it. So I know I spilled a lot on that, but um I just can imagine Ronnie, she was so lonely at that point. And I always go back to Lily as well, because Lily gets the worst end of this poor child. If she wasn't crazy, she needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
She gets I mean, her friends leave her in the sewer. And then they start blaming each other back and forth. If you didn't do this, this wouldn't happen. If you didn't do that, that wouldn't happen. But I feel like a lot of stuff, if they wouldn't, a lot of stuff caused the ripple effect. Like I think that Phil and Teddy and um Susie would probably be alive if they never went to the movie theater. Uh, if they never would have went down in the tunnels, Russo would be alive. It's every action has a reaction, I guess. But they went to blaming each other, and I'll leave it there. You guys, how did you feel about that? Towns looking for her dad, and uh, they're keeping pretty good secrets up there. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, you notice how aggressive Lily got when she had that artifact. And I think who was the girl with the patch eye? She was the one that actually noticed that. So um yeah, it seems like Lily started that argument um with oh man, what is that girl's name? The black
Well,
girl.
Ronnie and then
Yeah.
Marge stopped it. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Marge is the one that's the one with the patch in her eye, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So she noticed that because you saw her glance down when she was holding the artifact and how aggressive she get. Because remember how uh she was almost like remember Bishop in Juice when he had the gun and
Yeah.
like, let me hold the gun. No, I'm keeping the gun because I
Yep.
already got it. So that kind of reminds me of that scene, Lily being Bishop in Juice, because she got the gun now. So
Yep.
something is changing. Something something in that artifact is changing her, and unfortunately, it may not be something good for her because she's already unstable, and now she's going to be even more unstable the longer she holds on to that thing.
Yeah, and I think for me, this is where it was an interesting. Uh, it was like this is where a spiritual the perspective kind of came in because I noticed that I remember what's the Indian lady's name, the Native American lady's name?
Rose.
Rose, yes. When it was one of them. I think it was her that was talking about how um, it feeds on fear and anger and all that, and just watching how everybody it did seem. I saw it with Lily. I definitely saw that Gardis spot on with the the juice. Because I kind of saw that too. She was holding that thing. I thought she was. I don't know, but everybody started to get aggressive. With the mob. It was a progression of that. And I remember Rose saying, this thing it feeds on that, and the more that uh it just seemed like the whole town started spreading through the whole town. And then I know that it was something that the base was supposed to be protected or something. But how do you protect any, this place right here from, this evil? How do we do that if, everyone's going into this slow progression of whatever it is, if it's trauma, fear, madness, mob mentality? It just seemed like that. I noticed that spreading and throughout the town, and that was an interesting thing to see when she said that.
Yeah, and you're right, ChOOse. And I think they said something too. I could be mistaken about how because he lived in the sewer, it's in the water supply. Um, like he feeds in the water supply, but that
Yep.
something like that. But you're
Oh,
absolutely right.
he
Mm.
sheds.
Oh, he sheds in the water. You're right, right. And that goes back to remember how Rose met Francis on the side of the road. They were selling water, bottled water back in 1908 was very different to me. I don't know if that was a thing, but I just noticed like bottled water in 1908 on the side of the road. Was it fresh water, purified water? I can't wait to see more about Rose and her people's story. Like how do they make do? Um, okay, so the next thing I want to so okay, so now, so y'all, this is where it gets really cute. So they're into it, and the Losers Club is into it, and Will goes to check on Ronnie because Ronnie storms off after calling Lily crazy, and he and Ronnie are walking down the street, and they have this cute moment where they hug, and I was just like, ah. And they were getting ready to kiss, and then the horn honks, and it's Will Mama like, get your fast butt in the car. And she says, "You too, Ronnie." And I thought she was gonna drop Ronnie home, but I'll let y'all finish that part. Anybody want to finish that part?
Well, I mean, she was the one that was helping Ronnie's father get
Mhm.
away, and so she just basically wanted to bring her to his father. I mean, to her father. So, um, yeah, I kind of saw her as actually saving Ronnie because you noticed the lynch mob started to form. And obviously, if they would have saw her on the streets, they probably would have did something to her, trying to look for her father. So
Mhm.
I think she was trying to save her uh, from being in Derry, just walking around. Um, and I know she's a kid, and she probably doesn't completely understand. She probably understands some of it, but she doesn't completely understand that, you know, her father is accused of killing kids, especially white kids. And, you know, back in those days, if a black man touches a child wrongly, he's lynched and hung and strung up on a tree. And I know that's supposed to be Maine, a quote unquote, you know, northern state, but you know, lynching just didn't happen in the South. Um, there were lynchings up north as well. Not as many, but there were still lynchings. So, yeah, she just basically did that to kind of rescue Ronnie from the pain and anguish that she probably would have suffered if she would have met up with the lynch mob.
And I found that scene right there, it felt so reminiscent of like 80s back in the day when parents could be like, yeah, no, you too, you get in this car too. And I think that in general has saved a lot of our lives, you know. So that's not, you know, I just noticed that it was really really nostalgic for me because back in the day you could do that. You could be, hey, no, everybody get in this car, let's go. I love that part.
I didn't think about that. That is so cute. And so this is the crazy thing. Gardis brought up the northern states, like Maine being up there. But they didn't respect if we go back like to episode one when Will's dad was with Captain Hanlon or Hanlon, I'm not sure of his rank. When he got there, even though he was a superior officer, they didn't respect him. And then when and just to see that now Charlotte, Will's mom, she's like, I'm gonna go back to Selma. Like I'm going back to Selma instead of being up here where, you know, it seems like we have less freedom and less rights. Being on this Air Force base, being here in Derry, Maine, where all this weird stuff is going on, you losing control, you slapping the baby around. What is happening? So for her to just really go ahead and save um Ronnie's dad and believe in what he was doing, that he was innocent, and take it under sort of under her husband's nose, like she was revolutionary in that point. Like she's doing her thing, like she doesn't care, she's about saving her people. And I found that quite interesting about Charlotte.
Yeah, and she, you know, it was already mentioned that she was part of the movement, you know, part of the civil rights movement, and how you know, all the work that she did when she was in Selma, because we're talking about 1962, I think, actually before the Kennedy assassination. So yeah, we're talking about that period of time where civil rights struggle is still going on. And like I said, you know, even though they're up north, there's still a possibility. There's a great possibility that, you know, you can still get lynched, and this is why um, they had to hide. They had to hide Ronnie's father in that particular barracks, where the black, I forgot what they call it, that place that they created for themselves. There
The
was a
black
name.
spot.
Yeah, the black spot. And they had to hide. They had to hide him in that particular place. Now, what's also interesting, I just gave a reference because I know, like, in this series, you get some crossovers with other Stephen King stories. You know, like The Shining, and also um, um, what is that prison movie that Stephen King created?
Shawshank.
Yeah,
Shawshank.
Shawshank Redemption. And then I also, you know, made reference to a non-Stephen King movie with you know, with Juice, and how Lily, you know, acted like Bishop with the gun. But what I'm also getting vibes from is in the ending scene, and maybe you know, just as a reminder, because we'll probably get to that, you know, in a little bit. But remember in the ending scene when all of the lynch mob finally came to the black spot. I don't know if you ever saw Sinners, a movie that was released a couple of months ago. But doesn't the black spot in that area kind of remind you um Sinners and the juke joint that was part of that movie, and the significance of it, and how it houses um you know what was left of black culture in that particular area, and now you all of a sudden you got these mobs of people with masks on, who are looking to burn it down just to get one person. Remember, in Sinners, the vampires wanted to get that one banjo player. Now it's sort of like, kind of like the same thing going on in this particular scene.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that. Um, I thought it was very interesting because I haven't seen Sinners, so yeah, I haven't seen that, but I do very much know the history of juke joints. So when they were in their dance, I'm like, oh, they done turned this into a whole juke joint. And
Mm-hmm.
just seeing how happy everyone was in there. So it's like it was kind of a community, I would say, in there. And then as we get to the end scene, here's this just angry mob of people pulling up outside for one person. It would there was so much to unpack there for me personally, because I'm like, even the kids, it was that scene was just everything to me, because it was so cool. You just notice how everyone was just having a good time. It didn't matter. It was just so many people there and they were happy. And then you get outside and here's this angry mob ready to descend on one person, but just ready to tear it all down, like burn it all down just for this one part, like Gardis said. And that is the interesting thing about, I guess, Derry, because we're not like that. This is the North, and I feel like it was just it's more hidden. So when when she said, hey, I'm ready to go back to Selma. For me, it kind of felt like I'd rather go back to where I know, I know what I'm dealing with, rather than people being like, oh, it's not like that. It's like, it's another one of those, this is how we want you to see our city, or, but that's not it. It's just not it.
Yeah, just because you up north don't mean that the White Walkers can invade
Right, exactly. That part.
you.
Yes, winter is coming. Um, okay, so let's talk about how Ronnie dad even got there. So we have to go back a little bit, because Mrs. Kirsch is the one he ended up having an affair with. Um, and she went to meet with Charlotte to say, hey, can you help us out? And Charlotte got him to the black spot. So, do you guys think this? Because I feel like Hank might think that this relationship was genuine, but do you think that Mrs. Kirsch probably had this all in line to possibly uh meet people that had children to bring them to Pennywise if she found them? I don't know. It's just I was just like, man. But okay, so she made the call to Chief Bowers. Bowers, I think I'm saying it right. She made the call to Chief Bowers to tell him that Ronnie's dad was over at the black spot. So, what my next question is, remember when the kids went into the office to tell Chief Bauer about all the stuff they saw, and they took pictures of Susie and all these people in the cemetery?
Mm-hmm.
When they got to that last picture, they were like, look right here, it's a clown. He actually saw the clown.
And did.
And so I'm
And did.
wondering, right. So I'm wondering, do Bowers and what's our girl name right here? So she out here in the streets. If they have a personal relationship, because we got to get back to her, like Gardis was saying, but in 1908, she was still little Periwinkle. So who raised her? Where did she go after Pennywise after her dad passed away. Where did she go? She was still a kid, and she decided to stay in Derry. Who raised her? This is just. I'm just putting it all together because she made the call to get Hank out of there. It's just weird, but she betrayed her lover, but she was betraying her husband. So I don't know.
What?
That's a good question.
That's a very good question. I mean, I was stuck on, you know, the two, why I'm like, why is he just, dude, you didn't kill a kid. So what could be worse than that? Oh, so it's like, I'm like, oh yeah, you messed up. Go ahead and say it out loud. You did. What with that? What? I still take a chance with telling the truth, my guy, but it's, yeah, either way, that lynch mob was coming, so I understand the predicament that he's in. But that being said, that is a great question. I hope we get to figure that out at some point or see that, because obviously there was some gaps in, where, we see apparently her father died, and, how did you grow up? What led you to this point? But it's still a good, overall, I think it's these stories, even when we don't know the ending yet, it's just so good to look to just like reflect on, yeah, how do people get to these places where, Mrs. Kirsch is the way she is, and the captain or the major, whoever he was, he sees the clown, and it's like, okay, we're just not being honest, and it's just, I don't know. It for me, it all intertwines into life, where it's like, okay, this is Derry, this is a great town, and but people are messed up.
Sounds
Yeah,
familiar.
that is kind of like there's some sort of malevolent spirit in that town where um and obviously we know who what the spirit is, but it just seems like the presence of that spirit kind of affects um and I think, Berg, you talked about how people are getting more aggressive now, and their behaviors are more aggressive, and it's changing. And even to the sense of, remember that one episode where Charlotte saw the two boys fighting, and the people were just walking right by it, like nobody. And actually, it wasn't even a fight. I think it was like this one boy who was getting beat up by like three boys, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
nobody said or did anything. And Charlotte was like, "Why didn't anybody stop this?" And because I think she was at the butcher shop, and the butcher didn't even say nothing. Like that's where she's from in the South, is that that's unusual. You don't let three children beat up on one child and just walk by him. So something in that town is affecting um the morals of the people there. And Madeline Stowe's character, I can't remember her name, but uh she's kind of like representative of, because she stayed in Derry, and whatever trauma she had of losing her father, it basically kind of like twisted and manifested her into something different. And so also too, I found this very interesting too. Another tie into a movie, when we discovered that Hank and Madeline Stowe's character was was having an affair. Didn't that remind you of Mandingo? And if you looked at if you looked at Hank in the original Mandingo, they like dressed almost the same.
They are. Now, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Hmm. Gardis, I wanted to ask you something. I had this on my notes. You and ChOOse. Did you guys notice that no one has a whole, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, the two parent household, but the Hanlons, and Charlotte, Will, and Leroy. The Hanlons are the only whole family, because if you think about it, Lily dad passed in the pickle factory, and her mom popped pills. And then who else had a single mom? Everybody there basically, we don't know Richie and Marge's life too much, but everyone basically have like a one parent household, and it seems like they broke up. Even poor Ronnie, her mom died in childbirth. um it seems like they just broke up the Hamlin family too. It seems like everyone, something happens to the father or the mother in Derry.
And I thought that was a very interesting perspective, um, as well. Looking at that dynamic, it's like, is this why they're the the losers club? I mean, we never really see that there's any really real reason why these group of kids are outcast, but they just are. And I just thought that once we kind of started to see the family dynamics there, that there were whatever, one parent household, grandmother, whoever, but it it was it part of the labeling, because when you get to see all of these kids individually, they're all really great kids. And that's what's so interesting about why they're even, outcasts. I know they call them, they're but you could see in school, even with Marge trying to fit in. And so she's trying to make Lily look, a certain way, and to the point where she was being really, really mean. So it, I don't know. This was just really good.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. It seems like I was wondering if that was its thing to break up the families. Even when, if you go back, like to take away one child, not both kids, just destroy the families any way they can, like any way it can, by grief. And then it has to be a tragic death. Like, who dies in a pickle grinding accident? Like, that's weird.
Mm, yeah.
And for me, I think this is where I thought some spiritual elements came back in, because again, how do communities get divided? How do families get divided? It's, is it really, is there something bigger working, here that, you know, that pushes, or not everyone, but that pushes certain people to do the things that they do. So this is where it kind of got spiritual for me.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I agree. It's sort of like that's the deepness of the horror of this, and why people are so aggressive towards each other, because for one, the basic family structure is very hard to, is hard to form in Derry. And then once one is formed, then you see the glue, I think that's what they call it, the glue, trying to break the family up, by turning the dad against, the son, or something happens to the father or the mother, or, in the sense, and, then it makes the children go crazy, as you see with Lily, the trauma of losing her father because she felt like she was responsible for his death. Um, you see the demon, capitalizing on that. And I also think of this as um, and I agree with ChOOse about this being a very spiritual perspective of the breakdown of community, because of, a lack of family structure. Because you technically, it's hard to build a community without some form of family, and not just a nuclear family, but um, having family as a bond with each other. And this is what the demon is doing. It's breaking those bonds. But I also look at uh, the religious aspect of this, because Stephen King likes to throw in the little religious innuendos into his stories. And one of the things that I see in some of his stories is the personification of hell. And if you look at Derry, Derry is actually hell. because when you think about the aggressiveness, not just the demon being at the sewer level, eating children, but when you look at it from, like, say, a biblical standpoint, you all heard of the word Gehenna, right?
I have not.
Okay, so
Yep.
oh, you've heard of it, ChOOse? Okay. Well, if you remember in the Bible, they mention I think it's where was it mentioned at? I think it was mentioned um when Jesus talked about if one eye is if your eye is causing if one of your eyes is causing you to sin, then then remove it and throw it away.
Mm-hmm.
Better for your whole body to be, better to be one eye, being thrown away than your whole body in, he said, Gehenna. Now, what is Gehenna? Gehenna is a Hebrew word for the valley of Hinnom. What happened in this place was, during a certain period in the kingdom of Judah, there were kings who were practicing pagan worship, and what they were doing was they were sacrificing children in this place called Gehenna.
Mm.
They were sacrificing children, and so what happened was, the prophet Jeremiah had spoke out and cursed those kings who were practicing this illegal practice of pagan worship, which, like I said, involved sacrificing children. So in Jewish literature, Gehenna was always kind of like interchangeable with the word hell or Sheol. So when you think about kids being sacrificed and you think about Gehenna, a reference that many biblical scholars felt like Jesus used as a place of hell, because that's where a place where, a lot of children were sacrificed in that particular valley. So it was always restricted, after that practice was banished. And when you think about, like, say, for instance, the tie-in with Shining, if you saw The Shining, you saw a little bit of the history of the Overlook Motel. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the hotel. It was a place. It was it was a place where a lot of tragedies happened, and kids were being killed in that particular hotel as well. If you remember the two twins, that scared a lot of people, including myself,
Yeah.
during the early '80s. Those
Yeah.
twins, those twins got killed in that motel. So those spirits, those spirits of those spirits of the people who tragically lost their lives because of a violent incident continues to haunt that place. That particularly is that hell Stephen King creates in that story. So I kind of see that same instance with uh with uh with Derry, and also with Salem's Lot. If you like saw the movie or read the story, Salem was kind of like
Oh
that
yeah.
hell as well, with the
Yes.
hunting of the vampires. So
Yep.
yeah, that's my take on that.
I agree. Definitely agree.
Thank you for that. So, so we get to like a small, fun part. That's when Marge and Richie are bonding, having a rum and coke or Air Force Coke. Uh, Richie gets to play the drums. They're trying to convince Ronnie to fight it together, but Ronnie doesn't want to leave her dad right now. And it just seems like, I guess, the calm before the storm, but it was really, really cute. So they don't know what's coming, and of course we have the bad guys coming with the mask. So during this time, because they're all having a ball, our girl Lily, she is riding her bike. She didn't left class because even though she had that the little the artifact, why did her dad still? Why was he still in the desk? Why was the pickle guy still in the desk? I was confused about that because I thought that would keep him away, but I guess not. keep it away. But she was in class and she ran away to our girl Mrs. Kirsch house. So I'll let y'all take it away.
Yeah, I think the artifact is used to kill uh the Galoo, but I don't think it stops it from haunting you. So it may not be able to eat her like it did in the tunnels, if that thing is near, but I think it still can have a power over your fears and your mind. So yeah, I think that was very much I think that was very much the power of that demon still over her, even though she has the artifact to probably stop it.
Right. And I remember that Rose, remember when Daniel led them all into the sewer or wherever they were. Rose specifically said that Daniel was the only one that knew how to use it. So it kind of does make sense that, you know, it would still be able to taunt her, based on her fears and trauma. But because she doesn't understand the artifact that she has, I guess she wouldn't know, how to use it. And I also thought of just something else that crossed my mind during that scene. It with the artifact, and it's like, okay, we can, how in our trauma, or it could be trauma age. I mean, I don't even want to put a label on it. I can just say that people, sometimes we feel like we can have something and not know how to use it, not know what it's for. And I think that really was what it was. Like you have this thing, but just because you have it, you have to know how to use it. You have to, make sure that you know what you're doing with the things that you have, or it's not going to really, really help. I mean, I guess it kind of saves her life and protects her a little bit, but she does not know how to use that artifact correctly or that thing correctly to, kill it, which is what it's for, because she doesn't know.
She doesn't know what to use it. How to use it.
And so I just thought that, in general, we don't know what we know until we know it. And that's how, things kind of get more complicated. And so I'm telling you, this is to me everywhere. So I could talk forever. I'm just leave it right there.
Now that's interesting. You mentioned that because doesn't that seem to run parallel with what the military is trying to do, trying to capture Pennywise to quote unquote use it as a weapon. They don't, and I think who was the one that said oh it was Rose who was saying, okay, if you capture this thing, how do you know that this thing is going to do what you tell it to do? Because
Mhm.
you don't know what this thing is capable of, even if you capture it. Because
Exactly.
remember, the whole thing of the military was to use it against the Soviets, because this
Right.
is the height of the Cold War. And this actually goes into my political perspective of it, because a lot of it deals with Cold War politics, especially with the Soviet Union. Think about
Hmm.
this. They're trying to capture this thing so they can use it against the Soviets. Um, During that time, and if you saw a lot of the perspectives of the of they had the bomb drills. You remember the bomb drills where you
Yes.
go under the desk if in case of a nuclear disaster, like the desk is going to
Yep.
protect you from a
Yeah.
from nuclear fire. Um, but what's interesting is because you also see it like in the opening scene, and that song is so trippy.
Yes.
The smile and the ribbon in my head.
Yeah.
That's such a trippy song. But you look at a lot of the images that it has, like the fire and the nuclear fallout. Well, the nuclear mushroom that you kind of see, and you see the people, you see the students practicing like the nuclear drill.
Yep.
This kind
Yep.
of leans politically because of the fact that during that time, you know, the Soviet Union was considered, quote unquote, the boogeyman. You know, the Soviets are out to get us. They're out to take over the world, and they'll bomb us any chance we'll get. Well,
Yep.
I kind of see this as it representing, or Pennywise or the Galoo representing that boogeyman, the boogeyman
Hmm.
of the communists in the Soviet Union trying to take over the world and take over the United States. I see that, I see that symbolism a lot in this. And then when you think about the color red, which is very prominent in this movie, what is the color of the Communist Party?
Hmm.
It's red.
Hmm. Yep.
Mm.
Yep.
So that's actually my political analysis on it as well.
Yes. I totally agree with that. I definitely that, and I can go so many places politically with this. It's how, just how you said, like, it seems like, everybody kind of wanted the same thing. It's just, you know, what does this person want, to use the military, but yes, politics. It's so, I started to think about politics today. It's just, and everywhere. It's how you're told something. It's always something. There's always an it that is the boogeyman in politics, and that's someone. It's whatever candidate. It's whatever thing. It's something that is presented to us to put fear in us. So this
Yeah.
was so interesting.
And let me ask y'all this. In
Hmm.
the Southland last year, who was the boogeyman?
Tiffany Henry and the goons. She was the boogeyman. She had the
He
goons,
was
but she
the
was the
boogeyman
boogeyman.
last year.
She was
And
a
hey, can I ask you all this? It seems as though there is an it growing in the township that people are starting to talk about. So, I started to think about that too. I'm like, wow, you know, seems like Napoleon is kind of becoming the boogeyman. So it's just, and then just go to Democratic and Republicans. Boogeyman, boogeyman, everywhere, boogeyman. It's just this theme of putting fear of something or someone in us, which does have a reaction. It has a reaction when you're having people of authority, people who are supposed to know these things, that are telling us one thing, but they do know what's going on behind the scenes. So politically, that was what it was for me. It's like it's always something else behind the scenes.
Well,
you
well,
are so right.
think about this because the fear is actually layered. Say in this movie and also in politics too. So
Yes.
for me, it's always Napoleon is like Napoleon is like Pennywise, but Pennywise is just one form of the demon, the entity.
Yep.
Because when you think about the entity itself is much larger than what it manifests itself on certain people. So
Mm-hmm.
think about the Galoo as, like you said, the Democratic Party or the Thornton Township Democrats, which is a larger perspective of what's wrong with Southland politics.
Absolutely.
Napoleon is just like I said, he's Pennywise. And
Right.
you know
Right.
me, I have no love for Tiffany either, but she was like that too. That's just
Uh-huh.
one
Yep.
manifestation of it. That
Yes.
there is a much larger problem that sits behind Napoleon, that sits behind Tiffany, and
Yes.
and nobody is attacking that because people believe that if we just swap out this one person for another, then everything is going to be hunky dory. And now that we find out that it isn't necessarily the case, you know, we keep voting in what I say, the lesser of two evils, which, as I always say, still considered evil.
And may not be the lesser. And I think that,
Exactly, may not be the lesser.
yeah, we may think it is. And that's so interesting. I'm so glad that you brought that up. not any particular person like Napoleon, but just these different parts of Pennywise, which going back to Derry, it's like it manifested itself with with all the different people. You know what I mean? It manifested itself with in the tunnel as what is oh my gosh, what's her name? The wife,
Oh, Charlotte and
Charlotte.
Uncle Sam too.
Right. So Charlotte would, you know, it manifested itself as Charlotte in the, you know, when they were in the sewer, and it manifested itself as this big icky thing in the desk. So it with politics, yeah, it in general, that's the same thing that I see. It is. It's just it's it's a symptom of something bigger. What is behind this? What you see or what we see individually, and it's also interesting that as again to go back to that mob mentality and how everybody started to get more aggressive instead of coming together and everyone saying, okay, what are we going what's going on? How are we all going to, you know, fix it? Everyone had their own, you know, ways, even, you know, even the natives that were there. It's like, this is what we need to do to contain it. And I think they found out, you know, at least during this episode, that, okay, now it's bigger. We can contain this thing, which posed the question again to that Rose said, how do you plan on containing it? We see it's once we have things that start to divide us as, you know, people that didn't even know what was going on about it. We're just going about what the military says, and you know, even like the natives there, they're doing what they know about what they know. And instead of everyone coming together, everyone was getting more aggressive. Everyone was divided, and it grows stronger right behind, you know, right while we're all doing this stuff. So I thought that that was interesting to see all the different scenes playing out the mob, what was happening with each of the characters, and just how, and as we come to the end of the episode, we see, oh, this is not going to be good. You know what I mean? And it's all because there is something bigger looming behind what everyone's talking about. Really, I don't know if that makes sense.
It definitely makes sense. And it what you and Gardis are saying, look, I never thought about the political part of it because we have to go back. Remember how they knew Hank was innocent. He wasn't even there that night. And the man walked into the chief office and said, hey, find something on him or you're going to be like writing parking tickets. You know, they made him guilty. Or going back to when General Shaw walked into Rose Furniture Store, they said, "Oh, hey, we want to dig for what were they digging for? Water supply or something?" They didn't even tell, and then he didn't even dress in his uniform. General Shaw, he dressed in plain clothes, like, "Oh, I don't even remember anything." And
Right.
so all of the lies behind the scenes is helping the entity, the Galut, as well, because people are all out behind the scenes for their own personal gain.
And isn't that so parallel to, I can't even, you know, I don't even want to, because I don't want to keep picking on the Southland, although I'm going to keep picking on the Southland until they get it right, which may be never, so whatever. But I just mean, in the world, isn't that just what we continue to see? It's like there's stuff that is so much bigger than us that really have to do with other people's personal gain because everyone else, well, I don't want to say everyone else, but you know what I mean. There are certain people that, you know, have their goals and this is what I want and this is what I want out of it, that the people that it could actually hurt, which if we go back to Derry are the children, you know, what are we doing? What are we doing?
They don't care about the children. It's so funny because you could definitely compare. My favorite thing to compare if we had to talk about the Southland would be uh how everyone was mad Tiffany was making 200 and some thousand a year, even though she inherited it.
Uh-huh.
But the big people, the galoos, they snuck it in and under that Crohn's disease bill at the last minute, and there's nothing we could do about it. They all the way downstate making salaries up here. And there's nothing we could do about it, and no one has nothing to say. It was just as long as this person not making it. Oh, this person making it. Well, maybe it's not so bad after all. But now we don't have turkeys, so it's just about separation. Separation
Exactly.
is its biggest thing. Separating everyone. Like he wanted the kids to fight up in the clubhouse. He wanted
Yep.
them to fight.
He wanted them to fight. You could see in the school, just with the patty cakes. We can, and this is what I like about welcome, I should say, welcome to Derry. This is what I like about this particular show is that we're seeing once again, Stephen King does this all the time, but once again, we're seeing this on so many different levels, even in the high school with those mean old patty cakes. We just can't be friends. We gotta bully people. We gotta, it's just, we have to do all this and for what? It all benefits something bigger. And the fact that it goes down to just these people that have nothing directly to do with the military or the natives that are there, but it very much affects those children. So that's another thing that I saw that I see. I felt like, oh wow, what a kind of, I'm looking at like real life. That you have a bunch of grown people, that, everybody has what they want to do, but the children are the ones that are really in danger, aren't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
The children.
can, can I ask this question to y'all?
Mhm.
What do you think
Yes.
it? What is the significance of the 27 years? Why does it only come out every 27 years? What do you think the significance of that is?
Well, I was trying to think of that about that. And honestly, this is what I got because I just started thinking about this yesterday as I was listening. And I'm like, okay, 9 times 3 is 27, 999. I don't know, six. So I'm trying to put like numerology together. I don't know what it is about that, but I'm like, okay, what is it like? Okay, every 20 years, I mean, 27 years, and I'm trying to break down the numbers, and I haven't figured that out yet, but there must be. So that's all I had. I was just still trying to break that down myself.
What do you think, Gardis? Because I have not thought anything into the 27 years actually.
Well, I mean, I was looking some stuff up, and one of the things that I found maybe interesting about it is, you know, typically, well, we all know like the legal age of adulthood is 21. But they say around 27 is when you truly transition from adulthood to, well, from childhood to adulthood, or or adolescent to adulthood. Because when you think about the development of the human person, um, they say, and especially this with men, it's sort of like 27 is like the mark um, when children become adults, because by that time, you hopefully you done, graduated from college or established a career or something like that, and you living on your own, taking care of yourself, or a wife or children, or if you're married, you have children. But um I found that 27 was a kind of like a transition year for life.
Mm,
So when I think about why this demon comes out every 27 years. Um, I'm thinking maybe it's a generational thing, because when you think about a new crop of children coming in every 27 years, because now the people that are there are transitioning into adulthood, they're probably having kids, and it gets the feed up on, you know, the new children that's coming in. I don't know. I'm just kind of like taking a shot at the dark of some of the information that I've seen out there.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because I was trying to think of it in terms of, I guess, what I remember from like, I don't know, Derry, like you mentioned like birth, you mentioned the explosion. That was like 1908. And I know we're like, this is supposed to be like 1962 or something like that. And 27 years before this, something. So I don't know if that's supposed to be somehow significant to, as well, to the, the tragedies in the town, or but I have no idea like why the 27 years, because I was really trying like, okay, is it a breaking it down into nines or three? What are we doing here?
Yeah, it's very interesting because I don't. That's when they pulled up that gangster car that time. That was from 1930 something. Uh,
Mm.
Yeah, if
so
we're talking about 62, 1935 will be 27 years before that.
yeah, so I don't even, I forgot from the It movies what happened in 1962. I can't even recall what's going to happen this series.
Yeah,
And then,
I'm trying to think, like, because maybe this might be another tie-in to a Stephen King story, but I'm wondering, did he write a story that entails something in 1935? Because Stephen King actually um, wrote something that dealt with 1962. Um, he wrote this novel called 11/22 62.
Hmm.
Um, History quiz. What happened on that day?
I have no idea what happened.
John F. Kennedy
mm.
was assassinated.
Oh
Wow.
right, yeah.
Yeah. So that was like the significant event that happened in 62. Now I'm trying to look up to see if there was a significant event that happened in 1935, but nothing really comes up that kind of like sticks out. So um
And well, I wonder, and then I wonder because I keep going back to the to trauma, fear. So if I go back to like trauma, it could it be that 27 years is enough time for, I don't know, the for generational trauma to have happened. You know what I mean? It seems like you had, the kids that were the generation, the generation before, and many of them have had children, and wouldn't that, like, reliving your fears and your trauma, I would think, wouldn't that be a nice time to come back and start some stuff with your mind as far as trauma? You know what I mean? When you're little, you grow up, 27 years old now, you might have a child, and you know what I mean? So I was thinking about that too, like, is that enough time for more generational trauma to happen? And that's what helps them feed.
You are absolutely actually onto something because remember, they forget. So the people that stay in, no, the people that go away, they forget, right? And then the people
Right.
that stay, they get like desensitized. So
Hmm.
maybe you're right. Maybe that 27 years does that. Get you to
And I was
just,
just,
yeah.
oh no, I was just wondering. Yeah, I was really wondering because, you know, like I said, we get back to the trauma of it. It's like, well, that's enough time, for people to, go through their childhood and grow up and instill trauma in their children. Just that I went down that rabbit hole.
You are right. Like that's interesting with the whole trauma. That's why I love talking to y'all. Opening my eyes to different things. Now, speaking of trauma, we forgot just one character before we leave. Um, Dick Halloran.
Mm-hmm.
So he's back from the sewers, and he's trying to run in there and basically drink his problems away because it dulled the shining.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
what do y'all think about that? Because now his box is open with all his trauma, fears. Um, that's open and that's in his mind now. Now he's walking around seeing uh dead people and feeling things he don't want to feel. And uh Leroy, he's saying, Will's dad, he's like, hey, if you see these dead people, they could tell us where to find these pillars and all that stuff what we need, so I can get up out of here, take my family, and be done with it. But he's not really considering the trauma. It's basically like uh Dick Halloran is just one person that could lead them closer to their mission, but he's not thinking about the trauma that he has to see, like his grandfather and all of that. And I just found that interesting. That on top of that, he walks into the black spot and he wants to go to sleep and just drink himself away. And they didn't put Hank up in his room. So I'll let y'all take it away.
Well, that's
Well,
what for me. That's what made me think about the whole, you know, 27 years. It was Mr. Scary Man. That man is very intense, and a very talented actor. But as we saw him go back into his childhood, that's again what made me think. Here we go again with, you've had your trauma and you've had the time to, grow up and do what you do. And I don't think he realized that, and what his duties were and looking in other people's mind. I don't think he realized that like that. I don't want, okay, spoiler alert. I don't think he understood what that box meant and how that affected his trauma or could affect that. So,
yeah, I mean, I think he realizes because everybody claims his gift, but he feels like it's a curse because of
mhm.
the fact that he can't, the only way he can shut it off is through drinking. And and it's something that even when the military uses his gift and he's suggesting to them not to deal with that particular demon, they still don't want to listen to him, even though he has led them to that, and he understood that the glue is a much more powerful entity than what Halloran's gifts could offer the military. And it's interesting because it seems like the demon basically turned Halloran's gifts against him because
Yeah, yeah,
now he's afraid of it. So you know what people may consider a gift to that person, it may be a curse because that's it's too much of a burden for people to handle. Um, what's interesting is there was and this happens every time a new pope gets elected. So I had to explain to somebody that when Pope Leo was elected the pope, there's a room that they call the room of tears. It's where popes go to cry when they get elected pope. And many people feel like these popes go in there to cry because of the fact that they probably didn't want that burden of being, the head of the Catholic Church. So it's
mm,
not more tears of joy, it's more tears of sadness that they're burdened with this responsibility of being the head of the church. And so
oh,
with Pope Leo, um, I think his was more of sadness because of the fact that he wasn't campaigning to be pope. But the
right,
problem is that when the College of Cardinals elect you to be pope, then you got to be pope.
right. So true, so true. You got to do it unless you rough the book aside, and you
Hmm.
still got to do it. Start off throwing birds. But you know, back to Halloran, I definitely agree with you, Gardis, and I also what I found about this gift that Halloran had. I remember when he said, it seemed like, how he was talking about, his gift and how he could kind of see things. And Halloran said it seemed like he was like, going in people's minds and doing all that. But he told, was it the general? He told him it wasn't supposed to see me. And that was where, you know, Halloran was spooked because usually I feel like he was used to, I can see, whatever I can see people's minds or see what's happening, go inside. But I don't know if he started to have some fears and that's what made it see him. So that was kind of a sticky note that I put in my brain where I was like, okay, so you've been doing this and that shook you. That shook it. It was like that was the moment when we first saw fear in Halloran was when it saw him instead of how he usually did things.
I agree, and that box opening, it was has been after him since he found out that that he had this power. So I just feel like he's getting all the brunt of everything that would not affect. But I'll tell you, it kind of keeping him alive, or I don't know if it's Holleran's grandmother's spirit uh helping him stay alive, but um it's something how some of these people get to escape. It's sort of like it is playing with them a little bit, or the glue. Like,
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, you're good.
Oh no, I was thinking about the box again. He had it contained, apparently, in a box in his mind or wherever, which I kind of saw as, you know, instead of this was his unmet, this was his trauma. This is all the things that happened to him, all the things that he saw, all the things that scared him. He said he saw dead people, things like that. That's what his grandmother said. Put all that in a box. And what do you do when you store up your trauma so much and now something has broken that open, has, opened that door? I just thought that was interesting too,
Yeah,
because that box is open and now we see him drinking. We didn't see him doing all that. He was straight faced, stone faced, scary to me, like very intense. But now we see he's also different, just the way he, was interacting since he came back. You know what I mean? So for me, that was interesting to see. It's like, okay, now you're using liquor. Are you trying to drown out all that whatever you're trying, all that trauma from the things that he went through, the things that he did, and that box being open was just truly theatrical. I loved it. I don't know what you call it, but it was, yeah. I'm not Roger and Ebert. I don't know what to call it, but I'm just gonna go with the way-ins. Loved it.
yeah, great representation for sure. You are so cute. Okay, so now we got to deal with this crazy lady next week. It looked like, and hear her backstory because she's walking around with a clown suit for no reason.
She
Like,
sure put it on. And I'm
didn't
like,
take all that. And we're gonna have the
mm-mm.
scariest part. Looks like the black spot is gonna be in trouble. So you guys have any final words or anything else you want to add?
No,
I don't know.
this was actually an interesting conversation, but yeah, nothing else.
Okay, well,
Um,
can I see y'all next Monday? Well, no, I'm sorry, choose. You had something else?
oh, well, no, not too much. I sticky note. I
Please.
don't know if I watched it chapter two and I forgot, so I will be getting on that tonight. And in light of me being behind, I, I think you guys. I think we should talk about a watch party and see if people would like to come in on that. But we'll talk about that later. because it's some things that I think I need to catch up on too. Oh my goodness! But this was a wonderful conversation. Overall, I love Stephen. I love Stephen King books because that's what we had before. That's what I had before. I had was able to watch the movies. I had to sneak and read those, and just I think this Welcome to Derry. It's giving what I wasn't expecting. And again, two snaps up, and I'm looking forward to all heck breaking loose next Sunday up in Derry.
You are so. I'm telling you, dairy is much easier to deal. I appreciate y'all. So hopefully I see you guys next Monday.
Well,
And
definitely be there.
thank you so much, and thanks for y'all insight. I knew you would bring it, so I appreciate you so much.
All righty then. Take care.
All right, take care. Have a great night.
All right, you
Have a
too.
great night, everybody.
Bye. So we had ChOOse and Gardis, and you guys please follow ChOOse Compassion. And thank you for all that joined us. She drops she drops some funny gems all the time. I'm gonna redo my description box and put everything in there. And I appreciate y'all for joining here. And I'll see you guys. I'm sorry we got a late start with it. Like we started in the middle of the season, but hey, better late than never. And then we'll talk about the watch parties. You guys enjoy your night. And I'll see you guys soon. Thank you, Chew. Chew, you had me cracking up. And yeah, it's a lot to unpack when you're watching this. So I'll see you guys next week. Bye.